The noon sun sat cruelly over the plains, throwing waves of heat across the ranch yard. Dust rose with every step, the color of baked clay and sorrow. Inside the main house, the kitchen smelled of scorched bread and blood. The settler cook Eli leaned hard against the wall, his face pale beneath the streaks of soot and sweat. His shirt clung to him, torn open where bruises were already blooming purple and black. He'd been a proud man once, tall in his way, though now he hunched like a beaten mule. The door burst open. A hush spread through the house as a shadow filled the doorway. The rancher, Grady Holt. He was known in every county for his sheer size and silence. A man built like the hills, wide-shouldered and slow to move, but steady as a storm when he did. His eyes, a shade of steel under the brim of his hat, scanned the room and froze on Eli. What in God's name happened to you? Eli looked up, his lips trembling. He tried to speak, but the air caught in his throat. He coughed, then wheezed, clutching his ribs. His voice came out as a rasp. They broke my ribs for being your cook. Grady's brow furrowed. For a moment, no one breathed. Who? He asked, his tone low, not angry yet, but heavy, dangerous. The Garvin boys, Eli whispered. Said I was feeding the man who took their grazing land. Said I was too proud to be neutral. They waited till I went to the creek. 3 of 'em. Kicked me down till I stopped moving. Said next time I light your stove, they'll light me instead. Grady's jaw tightened. The air in the room thickened like smoke. He knelt beside Eli, his big hands gentle as he checked the man's side, feeling the damage. Eli winced, but didn't pull away. You should have stayed down at the bunkhouse till I came back, Grady said. His voice quieter now, carrying a weight that made the words feel heavier than any anger. Eli gave a shaky smile. Couldn't do that. Your men need feedin'. A hungry hand's a useless one. For the first time, a flicker of grief crossed Grady's eyes. He stood, slow and deliberate, then straightened his hat. The men who'd gathered in the doorway, wranglers, ranch hands, even the foreman, all watched him. No one spoke. They knew that look. When the giant rancher went silent, something bad was about to follow. Grady turned to his foreman, a wiry man named Wade. Saddle my horse. Now. Boss, Wade said cautiously. You can't now. There was no arguing. Wade left running. Grady turned back to Eli. You're done working for the week. You're gonna rest? You hear? Eli tried to protest, but the rancher raised a hand, not roughly, but firmly. I'll bring Doc Sampson from town. You'll get mended proper. He started for the door, but Eli called after him, voice weak and hoarse. Greta, don't go after 'em. They'll just come back meaner. Grady stopped in the doorway, his massive frame casting a long shadow across the floor. His voice dropped to a rumble. They already came meaner. Outside, the wind had picked up, carrying the scent of dust and danger. He strode toward the stables, boots pounding against the hard ground. The ranch hands exchanged wary glances. Some wanted to stop him. Others wanted to follow, but none dared. As he mounted his horse. The ranch yard fell silent except for the creak of leather and the whine of the wind through the fences. He glanced once toward the kitchen window, where Eli leaned against the frame. Clutching his ribs, trying to stand proud despite the pain. I'll be back before sundown. Grady said, mostly to himself, and this won't happen again. He rode out fast, the ground shaking under the power of his stallion. The horizon swallowed him in minutes, but the tension he left behind stayed thick. Inside the kitchen, Eli sank to the floor, the pain catching up to him. One of the younger hands rushed to his side with a basin of water. What's he gonna do? The boy asked. Eli managed a bitter chuckle that turned into a cough. Whatever it takes to make the Garvin boys remember who they picked a fight with. The boy looked uneasy. You think he'll kill him? Eli's eyes flicked toward the open door, where the dust trail of Grady's horse was fading into the plains. He don't kill unless he has to. he said softly. But when a man like that's pushed far enough, he don't have to twice. Asterisk. By the time evening rolled across the land, the ranch was quiet as a graveyard. The men stayed inside, pretending to eat, pretending not to listen for distant gunfire. Every clatter of plate or creak of floorboard felt too loud. The air hung heavy with expectation like thunder building over the mountains. Asterisk in his corner. Eli closed his eyes, whispering a prayer not for himself but for the men who'd broken him. Somewhere out there in the gathering dusk, Justice rode with a heart full of rage and a face carved from silence. Asterisk dusk had fallen when the rancher returned. The sun was a bleeding wound over the horizon, spilling crimson light across the prairie, and his horse came back coated in dust and sweat. The men had been waiting all day, tools idle, voices low, watching the road. When Grady Holt finally rode through the gate, no one said a word. Asterisk, the giant rancher, looked different, not bloodied, not broken, but quiet in a way that frightened them more. His hat was tilted low, his eyes shadowed, and his jaw was locked tight, as if holding back something dangerous. Asterisk, he dismounted slowly, his boots hitting the dirt with a heavy thud. The only sound was the leather creaking and the faint hum of wind over the dry grass. He untied a bundle from his saddle horn, a torn piece of canvas with 3 sets of spurs. It bent and rusted from age and pride. Asterisk, he dropped them onto the ground in front of the porch. The metallic clink echoed like a shot. Asterisk, Garvin, boys won't be cuming around no more, he said simply. His voice carried the weight of finality. Not boasting, not angry, just done. Asterisk, the foreman Wade swallowed hard. Boss, you didn't. Asterisk, Grady's eyes flicked up, pale and cold. They're alive. But they won't be ridden far for a while. Sheriff will find him by morning. Asterisk, he turned and walked toward the house, shoulders rolling like a bear out of the mountains. Every man stepped aside as he passed. No one dared speak. Asterisk, inside, the air was thick with wood smoke and the smell of stew. Eli sat at the kitchen table, ribs bound with cloth, a lantern casting golden light across his tired face. When he saw the rancher step through the doorway, something in him eased and something else tend. Asterisk, you found M, Eli said quietly. Asterisk, I did, Grady replied, setting his hat down. They won't touch you again. Asterisk, Eli nodded slowly, eyes wet but stubbornly proud. You shouldn't have gone. Wasn't worth it. Asterisk, Grady's gaze softened. You cook for my men. You feed this place. You're worth more than every acre I own. Asterisk, the words hung between them. For a man like Grady Holt, who barely spoke unless he meant it, they were heavier than a promise. Asterisk, Eli looked away, swallowing hard. What did you tell the sheriff? Asterisk, the truth, Grady said. That I found 3 men sitting on my land with a rope and bad intentions. Told him they got what they came for. Asterisk, Eli's lips twitched into a weak smile. And he believed that? Asterisk, Grady's eyes glimmered with something almost like humor. Didn't have much choice. Asterisk, the 2 men sat in silence for a moment. Outside, the cicadas started their night chorus. Somewhere in the distance, the cattle lowed softly. Restless from the scent of dust and iron in the air, Asterisk, finally, Eli broke the silence. You could have let it go, Grady. Men like that. They never stop cumin. You can't fight the whole frontier. Asterisk, I don't need to, the rancher said. Just gotta make sure the ones who try remember the cost. Asterisk, Eli sighed. You talk like it don't cost you to. Asterisk, Grady looked at him for a long moment, then glanced toward the window where the last traces of daylight were dying in streaks of violet and ash. It does, he admitted quietly. But I got broad shoulders for a reason. Asterisk, Eli smiled faintly. And a fool's heart to match. It's asterisk that earned him a soft chuckle, rare and deep, like distant thunder. Grady poured 2 cups of coffee and set one in front of him. You rest now. Tomorrow, you start again when you're ready. Don't rush it. Asterisk took the cup, hands trembling slightly. You always like this? Taking hits for folks who don't owe you nothin'? Leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. When I was a boy, he said slowly, My PA told me a ranch don't survive on fences or guns. It survives on men who stand for each other. You fall once out here, and the coyotes don't ask who you worked for. Asterisk, the words sank deep, and Eli stared into his cup, nodding. Asterisk outside. A few of the ranch hands gathered near the porch, whispering. They'd seen the bundle of spurs. They'd seen the way the boss walked, slower, heavier, but unbroken. In their eyes, something had shifted. They weren't just working for him anymore. They were working with him, asterisk, ho.